So I just watched Go with the Flow, and I've been dreading this day. Otherwise known as the filliest of filler episodes. It's a giant death ray episode. Megatron's built a giant death ray. The smartest Megatron we have ever had. The one who came up with plans that could literally unravel all of space and time. The one who could manipulate not only the Maximals but his own Predacons at the same time to meet his ends. Giant Death Ray. Now the Beast Wars writers do like their send-ups to the classics. We've seen homages to Looney Tunes and old westerns and monster movies. So I guess this falls in line with them celebrating old tropes, but seriously, we're going to talk about a giant death ray. It just seems so beneath Season 3 Megatron, you know? It just seems like so, low rent, just but, I don't know. It just seems like so far beneath him at this point, it's not even funny. But let's go over some of the other points in this episode, because it's not just giant death ray. No, the first scene is Cheetor teaching the early anthropoids, the kids, Jack and Una, they have been named. He's teaching them basic tools and basic scientific principles like pulleys and levers. And they've also apparently learned some English. And there is no concern or regard to the timeline or artificially moving ahead the evolutionary process of these anthropoids, which we've already accidentally done with the hammer, by the way. No, now they're just intentionally doing it. And Optimus Primal has no concern over what this is doing to the timeline in general, by the way. What I don't know. It just seems like short-sighted. We have temporal prime directives for a reason. So the giant death ray. We need to talk about the giant death ray again. Because this is the point where it becomes thing again. So Waspinator and the other Predacons kidnap Una because Megatron needs her to finish the death ray. Why? Because before they were done building it, before they had put on all of the shielding, and before they had installed all the stabilizers, they turned it on. They plugged it in and turned it on before it was done. And during this whole episode, the whole plot is Megatron needs someone organic to finish the death ray, because the death ray affects all Cybertronians. And at no point does he think, let me unplug it so we can just finish building it the way we intended to originally. Nope. It's the dumbest, most contrived thing in this whole episode. Just unplug the machine and finish building it. That's it. That's literally it. Anyway. So this does lead to a fight scene in the jungle, which is kind of nostalgic. We've had very few jungle scenes since Season 1 ended, so it's nice to kind of go back there again. And they do get away with Una, but in what is probably Waspinator's most humiliating moment, he is disassembled midair by a child with a pointy stick. That's all it takes. That's all it takes to disassemble him at this point. He's been busted open so many times. That's all it's just a stick with a stone on the end, and that's all it takes to tear him apart now. All his linkages are just that worn out. The fight at least gives Cheetor a brief chance to show off. We really haven't gotten that since he went Transmetal 2. It's not a good showing, though, compared to Dinobot, who had to take two, a standard Transformer and a Fusor to be defeated last episode. No, standard issue Predacons can defeat Cheetor now, even with his powered up form. So Cheetor doesn't look really great in this episode. Depth Charge does come to the rescue, and it's nice to see him actually cooperate with the Maximals now, even if he is doing it begrudgingly, and he's really in it just to hunt down Predacons. Through the course of that, him and Rat Trap end up together on this rescue mission very temporarily. And it feels like the banter back and forth between the two is trying to replicate a little bit of what Rat Trap and Dinobot were about. It at least gives Rat Trap someone to actually banter at that is willing to retort him. And it's someone who is, actively putting Rat Trap down all the time. It just doesn't hit the same way. It feels like a cheap attempt to recreate that, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. There is one amusing scene in this episode, and that is Megatron trying to bark instructions to Una to actually fix it, because he's trying to be nice. He's like, kind of like playfully chuckling the way you would if you're trying to get a kid to actually like follow some directions they don't entirely understand. It does raise some questions. Like, how does Una know what any of these things are? How does she know what a shielding plate is? How is a child strong enough to lift them? How does she reach the top? She reached the top of this huge death ray to put all the stabilizers and to put all the shielding plates up there. There was no ladder that I could see. I didn't see Inferno pick her up so she could go do it. Because that's the whole point. Cybertronians can't approach the cannon. It's just weird. It's a bizarre concept. It's done strictly for humor, and I don't think the humor entirely lands here. Megatron's frustration is kind of amusing, but also, I don't know. I know some people are going to find Una endearing. I kind of find the anthropoid kids annoying. That's just me. Like, I can tolerate Wheelie, but these two just like hit the nerve the wrong way. So a little of this is my own personal preference and bias. I will admit that. During the course of this, so in a test firing, Depth Charge and Rat Trap get blasted down. That's pretty much the end of Depth Charge for the episode. He spends most of this rescue mission buried under a tree. And then just gets used as a boat in the last scene. So how the mighty have fallen. So Depth Charge, if we're keeping track, also doesn't get to look good in this episode. And that leaves Rat Trap to go on this mission alone. And despite storming into this Predacon facility alone, he gets Una and gets out. He just does. He didn't even sneak in like Rat Trap is prone to do. He just busted through, started pointing his gun, and then when everything went to chaos, he just took Una and left. During the course of this, Inferno and Waspinator were just apparently standing around doing nothing. Quickstrike was still recovering from a quick jolt he got at the beginning of the episode, so he's not even in the rest of the episode until the very end. Rampage is completely gone. Don't tell me Megatron left him, of all people, in charge of the Predacon base while he was gone. So you're telling me that Megatron, Inferno, Waspinator, Tarantulas, and Dinobot 2 were not enough to stop one Rat Trap. By the way, the first encounter between Rat Trap and the new Dinobot, completely uneventful. Like, it's such a waste of a moment. Ugh. It's so weird. There's an escape sequence down the river, floating down on Depth Charge. All of the Predacons are defeated when Una's lever suggestion, which she keeps going on about lever, because that's what she learned from Cheetor. And they smacked a mud ball in Waspinator's eyes with the lever, which made him crash into Inferno, which would be fine. That's Waspinator. That's comedic timing. But then the two of them both crashed into Dinobot in what is like the most perfectly convenient alignment of like collisions. Also makes Dinobot 2 look like a joke because he didn't just move out of the way. And apparently, like Predacons just Katamari together into metal balls when they're careening out of control. Apparently, that just activates all the magnets in their systems. So we get through all of this. The final part of the assembly in that like joke scene is Una installing a stabilizer crystal into the death ray. Except here we find out she didn't install it. She kept it as a hairpiece. This is in spite of the fact that when she finished it, she was in full sight of Megatron, who apparently did not catch this sleight of hand, and her hands were completely empty after she actually manipulated the machine. So, here's the thing. If she did this intentionally, it means Megatron, the smartest Megatron we've ever had in Transformer fiction, was outsmarted by an anthropoid that probably has the brain the size of a baseball. Yeah. And then if she did accidentally, then he's still an idiot for just not monitoring things well enough. See, at the end of the episode, we get two things. We get a massive explosion that, once again, doesn't kill anybody at point-blank range. And we get depth charge suggesting that all the Predacons in there are probably scrap because they were in point-blank of a massive explosion from an energy source that is specifically meant to disable Cybertronians. And no one thought to just call in the rest of the Maximals to go finish them off. Primal alone could just fly there and just shoot them all down, and Beast Wars won. No, they just swim home, call it a day, end of the episode, roll credits. So, all scores in the Beast Wars episode reviews, and thusly all episode reviews from here on out, are relative to the series they are in, and thus Go With The Flow gets a terrible score. My lowest score possible. Is it watchable? Yes, but it is absolute filler episode that accomplishes nothing. It makes the 3 new toys of the year in this episode look really, really bad. The only one who comes out looking cool in this whole thing is Rat Trap, who you could say shows some growth by being willing to go on this mission for one organic child. And pretty bravely, going very much against the odds. Okay, fine. Rat Trap doesn't need those moments. Cheetor needed that, because we've barely seen Cheetor this season. You know, if only to sell the toy. Rat Trap's toy is off the shelves for a year by the time this episode came out. So I really do not know in any regard what they were trying to accomplish with this episode. There's a popular misconception that says that this episode got approved and thus we didn't get Dark Glass, but it's kind of the opposite. This one got approved because apparently, according to the writers, Dark Glass was not a script that was workable. I don't believe that when the writers are so good at what they do that they couldn't have made that script work when it had overarching plot critical elements in it, but somehow they made this script. Somehow this script got by. A script that didn't even remember that Transmetal 2s could heal themselves, which is the whole reason Cheetor was put off of the mission in this one, because he was too damaged. He can heal himself. It's what Transmetal 2s do. This is the worst episode of Beast Wars. Every series has to have a bad one. This is Beast Wars' bad one. So, there you go. That is another episode review in the books. Thank you once again for joining me. If you like this episode, I'm sorry. This is just my opinion. And my opinion is it's the low point of the series. But don't worry. It's pretty good from here on out. I'll see you then. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.